And thank you for being with us tonight for the candidate forum for the California State Senate District 7. I am Kathleen Cha of the League of Women Voters, Bay Area and Oakland, and your moderator for tonight's candidate forum. This event is hosted by the League of Women Voters, Berkeley, Albany, Emeryville, co-sponsored by the leagues in Alameda, Oakland, West Contra Costa County, and the Alameda County Council of the League of Women Voters. The League of Women Voters is a trusted membership organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. We do not endorse or oppose candidates or political parties. The League participates in advocacy and voter education. The advocacy arm of the League may take positions on issues such as ballot measures. This forum is presented by the education arm of the League. I'd like to remind everyone that candidates have all agreed to participate under ground rules set for this forum. The League is very proud of their history of civil discourse and non-partisan forums. This is an educational event, not a debate. Before we get started, there are some details to review that will help you interact with this session. Microphones are muted for everyone except the candidates and the moderator. Video images will show the candidates and the moderator. Candidates will stay on the screen for the entire forum and will mute until it is their turn to speak. Chat has been turned off for attendees. We are recording this forum and will be posting it via our websites and social media, such as YouTube, for the broader community to access after the event. Today's candidate forum focuses on California State Senator from District 7. There are 6 candidates running for this elected office. All candidates were invited to participate in the forum. 5 candidates are participating in alphabetical order: Arreguín, Jovanka Beckles, Jeanne Kalb, Kathryn Lybarger, Sandré Swanson. Candidates who are not present were given an option to present a statement. None was provided by the 6th candidate, Jeanne Solnordal. Today's candidate forum will proceed as follows. Opening introduction, 1 minute. Set of 5 questions, 1.5 minutes. Lightning round, 15 seconds. Candidate closing, 2 minutes. Questions for this forum have been solicited in advance from the community and from our local leagues. We have screened the questions to ensure that they are fair and unbiased and to avoid duplication or anything inappropriate. The order of answering the questions will alternate. Just as a reminder, the chat function will not be active. A countdown timer is on the screen. This clock will signal the candidates of the remaining time and when their turn is up. As moderator, I may verbally give prompts as well. Remember that to all the candidates, if you go over time, I will remind you. I will attempt to allow you to finish your sentence, but then we'll ask you to stop. If you violate the background rules, you could be prevented from answering future questions, be muted, or removed from the forum. But we already know what the ground rules are, so that's not a problem. There will be no separate rebuttals. Following the questions and lightning round, each candidate will have a 2-minute closing where additional comments can be made. So let us begin. Each candidate will now give a 1-minute opening introduction statement. The order of candidates has been randomly assigned. We will begin with Jovanka Beckles. You're muted.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Jovanka Beckles. I am a former Richmond City Council member, 2 terms, AC Transit Director. I'm a Black, Latina, gay, immigrant woman. I'm a labor and community activist and a rank and file recently retired Teamster working as a mental health professional. The many policies that I wrote and passed received national attention for their boldness and life-changing impacts. These include banning the box, rent control, passing the first rent control in over 30 years, raising the minimum wage to the highest in California, taxing Chevron and significantly reducing crime. Voters are excited when they see a working class person who looks like them. Only one of 40 state senators right now are Black. Representation matters. Our democracy, our freedom, and civil rights are under attack. We need solidarity in this race and class struggle, but we win when we come together. I'm connected to the community because of my work and activism for the last 23 years. Join me in this People Over Profit movement.
Jesse Arreguín, you're next.
I'm running for state senate because the East Bay needs a proven progressive problem solver who will fight for more housing, safe neighborhoods, universal health care, and better schools. I'm the current mayor of Berkeley and vice president of the Association of Bay Area Governments. As a son of farm workers, I overcame the odds to achieve the California dream, inspiring me to open the door for others. As mayor of Berkeley, we focus on public safety, hiring more police officers, investing in violence prevention, banning ghost guns, increasing police oversight, and shifting responses to mental health calls to trained social workers. We've reduced homelessness through bold, compassionate action. We're leading the East Bay on housing affordability, building more housing than we've seen in decades, protecting renters, and developing a regional housing plan for 440,000 new homes. I fought for equal pay for women and made Berkeley a sanctuary city for women's reproductive health and gender-affirming care. I helped raise the minimum wage, cut red tape for small businesses, fought hate crimes, and I'm leading the fight to save Alta Bates Hospital. I'd be honored to be your next state senator.
Kathryn Lybarger, you're next.
Okay. Hi, my name's Kathryn Lybarger. My wife and I moved to the East Bay 23 years ago to start a family. We have 2 kids who are now grown. I'm a gardener by profession. I now work full-time leading a union, though, of 33,000 people, mostly women, people of color, who feed students, clean hospital rooms, empty bedpans, take x-rays, worry about paying the rent and what's for supper. This keeps me grounded in the practical. In the face of our affordable housing crisis, I'm working right now to expand first-time home ownership to low-wage workers at the University of California. I'm also working to raise wages so people can afford to live near where they work. This includes my current effort to place on the ballot a measure that would extend equal pay to all California women. I lead a federation of over 2 million working people, and I have the support of nurses, teachers, farm workers, groups like Equality California, Environmental Voters, and Fund Her, and several local and state level electeds. I'm honored to be here.
Dan Kalb, you're next.
Thank you. My name is Dan Kalb. I'm in my 3rd term as an Oakland City Council member with a strong record of accomplishments on climate change, affordable housing, public education, our libraries, gun violence prevention, and so much more. Virtually my entire professional career has been that of engaging as a public interest, social justice, and environmental advocate. I've been a strong policy reformer for over 30 years, including 10 years commuting to Sacramento, crafting legislation, state legislation, building coalitions, and engaging in the entire soup to nuts process on complex policy. Being a state legislator is not a high-profile position, and being an effective state legislator is not about merely talking the talk. The real work is the intricate, often behind the scenes, tedious work on complex policy matters. And that's the kind of determined work that I'm very good at. If you look at my work on the Oakland City Council and my work previously with the Union of Concerned Scientists and other nonprofits, you'll know that I get the job done and I pay attention to detail. In Sacramento, I will be a leader on affordable housing, climate justice issues, reducing gun violence, and overall public safety. Thank you so much. Looking forward to the conversation.
All right. We will now have a series of 5 questions, set questions.
Hello.
Sandré.
Sandré, oh, I checked you off. So sorry about that.
Okay. Yes,
Go
thank you.
for it.
Thank you very much. Sandré Swanson, I'm a former member of the State Assembly and former chair of the Assembly Labor Committee with a 100% voting record for working families. I'm running in this race to stop our unacceptable crime wave that is hitting our community and destroying our neighborhoods and frightening our people. I'm running to end our unsafe homeless encampments and bring humanitarian solutions to the unhoused. And I'm running to try to make our education system #1 in the nation, making sure that we have full service schools, safe learning environments for our children, and that we have adequate compensation for our teachers that are doing a great job. I'm a former chief of staff for Congresswoman Barbara Lee, a former district director for Congressman Ron Dellums, and I'm encouraging all of you to participate in this election. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will have our series of 5 questions. These are, each one of you have 1.5 minutes to answer. The first question: how can we get more affordable housing built, and what is the state's role? What is your housing policy? Would you support rent control throughout the district? How would you address the issues of housing and the unhoused in District 7? And Jesse Arreguín, you get to begin.
Well, thank you. As Mayor Berkeley and president of our regional government, the Association of Mayor Governments, I have the strongest record on not just creating affordable housing, but building more homes. Berkeley is seeing the biggest boom of construction in 50 years. 7,000 units have been approved during my time as mayor. We're working with BART to build new transit-oriented development projects at our 2 BART stations at North Berkeley and Ashby stations. I helped develop our Bay Area regional plan, regional housing plan for 440,000 new homes in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I'm working to lead an effort to put a $20 billion affordable housing bond on the Bay Area ballot. So my plan is simple. We need to focus on the 3 Ps: producing new housing, preserving existing naturally occurring affordable housing, and protecting our neighbors from displacement. I will fight for all those 3 things. That's why I'm the only candidate endorsed by California YIMBY, the Housing Action Coalition, YIMBY Action, Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, and a number of housing leaders. I want to be a housing champion in Sacramento, focusing on trying to streamline production, making sure we can secure millions of dollars to build affordable housing here in the East Bay. We need to fight for a permanent source of funding, and I support looking at bringing back a form of redevelopment. And with respect to homelessness, we know what the solution is. We need to build housing, particularly permanent supportive housing. So I will work to not just advocate for funding for our Home Key program and to build permanent supportive housing in the East Bay, but work to advocate for more mental health services, substance abuse services, and to work with local governments to address our homeless crisis.
The next person is Sandré Swanson.
Thank you. I believe that housing is a human right. And I think that we as a society need to redefine the safety net to make sure that people can be housed. I was a member of the State Assembly, and I told my colleagues when we were discussing the issue of redevelopment funds that we were making a mistake by ending redevelopment agencies. I argued with my colleagues, I argued with the governor that to eliminate those funds would make it difficult for cities like Oakland and Berkeley and Richmond to use those monies for the unhoused, use those monies to partner up for affordable development in the community, and also to use those monies for other special needs services of those that are unhoused. It's a complicated network of needs that people who, some are working poor, that are living in their cars, and they need some transitional housing. Some have mental health issues that have to be addressed. And so we have to make sure that we have services to deal with that. First we have to make sure that we understand the first need, and that is to make sure that we have a place for the homeless to go to that is safe, and that has the kind of support so that hygiene is taken care of, that the children are supported for school.
Dan Kalb.
Thank you. I know that high housing prices and rents have contributed and are contributing to displacing longtime residents in much of the East Bay, really changing the character of our neighborhoods and making it harder for people who work here to live here. And I've been a consistent and passionate leader in the effort to address our housing needs and create more affordable and workforce housing in our community. And I've done that in numerous ways. And I want to also thank EBHO, East Bay Housing Organization, for honoring me with one of their awards as an affordable housing champion in the East Bay. And I will continue to live up to that the best I can. I was the first person among the candidates, one of the good candidates here, who really been saying we need to bring back redevelopment, a modified form of redevelopment for focusing on affordable housing. And in fact, that's why former State Senator Jim Bell has endorsed my candidacy. I've been a strong and passionate supporter of renter protections and renter rights. I will continue to do so. I will be a leader when it comes to affordable housing in Sacramento, as I have been a leader on affordable housing in Oakland. But we need housing for all income levels, with an emphasis on moderate, low, and extremely low income housing, especially those to help our homeless population. And speaking of our homeless population, we need to take seriously the comprehensive challenges that entails. That includes residential drug treatment, mental health counseling, and a place to live, but the services have to be part of that place to live. And unfortunately, the state is not helping all that much when it comes to the services. They help a little bit with the housing, but not enough with the services, and I'm going to change that. So we have to have a comprehensive approach to help our homeless residents. So prevention is the most important thing, and thank you.
Thank you. Kathryn Lybarger.
So there are two sides to the housing issue and affordability. One is wages, the other is availability. We have to build a ton of housing, just abundant housing. We have had decades of not building housing here in California. And so that is, lack of supply is one big reason that we've got such a crisis on our hands. But the other, honestly, is wages. And I'll talk about that first. I think that the reason why people become homeless is because often they're one paycheck away from being able to afford a place to live. And there's a lack of housing. I think that we ought to think big about this. The San Diego Community College District just raised their minimum wage to over $30 an hour, because that was estimated to be what it takes to get by in San Diego. I think that we need to think along those lines. The other is, I know that when it comes to working people, if you're not fighting as hard as you possibly can, working people and our needs often get pushed to the side. It becomes still challenging to build abundant housing, even at market rate, but even harder to build affordable. We have to preserve affordable. We've got to build more affordable housing. I'm for social housing, community land trusts, co-housing, and we've got to protect tenants for repealing or reforming Costa-Hawkins. And we've got to make sure that people can stay in their homes.
Jovanka Beckles.
Well, first I want to say that, having building housing means nothing if we don't have rent control. And that's why when I was on the Richmond City Council, I brought forward the first rent control policy in California in 30 years, because, it doesn't matter how many market rate housing we have. If we don't have affordable housing, then we're never going to address this problem holistically. And we definitely cannot build our way out. So we have to redefine what affordability means. In this area, affordability means, to qualify for affordable housing, someone, you could be making over $70,000 a year. And for low income, it's $55,000 a year. So what does that mean? It means then that everybody else who makes less than $55,000 a year is not going to be qualified for support. That makes no sense. And so I'm really proud of the fact that I addressed this issue by dealing with one of the root causes of that, and that's out of control rent. I did that. I was able to build the most amount of affordable housing of all the candidates here. So that's why we need statewide rent control. We need to reform Costa-Hawkins. And I do want to give big props to Sandré Swanson, who often started this conversation about redevelopment long before all of us did. So thank you so much for that, Sandré.
Next question. What are your top 3 priorities for improving public safety? And Kathryn Lybarger, you get to begin this set.
So everybody deserves to be safe, no matter who you are, where you live. And I think that, we'd probably all agree that what we've got to do is address the root causes of crime, right? Housing, jobs, poverty. Democrats have been talking about this for decades. It's not wrong. Have we done enough about it? No, we haven't. I think that in the immediate, what we need to do is staff up all the people who make us safer. That includes healthcare workers, teachers, 911 dispatchers, social workers, behavioral health workers. These are folks who actually make the job the police have to do a lot better. Police do an incredibly dangerous job, and we have to staff them up as well as needed. Primarily, we need to invest in community-driven, community-based approaches to public safety and not just talk about it. We need to invest in the ceasefire violence prevention program. And then finally, I would say that, there's no law that is sacred and can't be revisited, is untouchable. So any laws that we've got around public safety that need to be revisited, are they effective? We need to look at the data for that and be willing to make changes as needed. But it needs to be well-informed and data-driven with an eye toward justice and equity so that we don't go backwards on the great work we are doing, not enough, but that we need to do more of to make sure that some communities don't end up in prison more than others.
Dan Kalb, you're next.
Thank you for that question. Multifaceted. Certainly, there are more than three things, but let me just rattle off a few things that we have to do at the state level to help our local jurisdictions. One, we need to make sure the state does everything it can to reduce gun violence. That's a multifaceted challenge overall. I've been a leader when it comes to passing laws at the local level. I authored laws to ban ghost guns and the parts that make them and require safe storage of guns in homes, but there's so much more we need to do. So getting guns off the street, getting illegal guns off the street, we have to stand up to the NRA and do the best we can at the state level to help our local jurisdictions. The second part, rehabilitation in our state prisons. I toured San Quentin Prison about 7, 8 years ago, and I met with the inmates, met with the NGOs running rehabilitation programs, met with the warden. And if we're successful, if we want to be successful at reducing recidivism, we have to have a robust rehabilitation program, not just at one state prison like we have at San Quentin, but at all our state prisons. And right now that we fall short. We have to increase those investments in a big way. That will reduce recidivism. The data shows that. And three, we need to fund and invest heavily in reentry services at the county and local level. If you can't do that after people get out of prison and come back to our communities or where they're on probation, if you can't invest in reentry services, we're not going to be able to reduce recidivism. Most people who commit crimes are people who committed crimes before, especially serious crimes. We need reentry, rehabilitation, reentry services that will help people. We will be helping people who need help and will be reducing crime for all of us.
Jovanka, Beckles.
Yeah, thank you so much. Would you please repeat the question?
The question is, what are your top 3 priorities for improving public safety?
So I'm really, really proud of the fact that Richmond is no longer on the country's most highest crime cities. And that happened during my tenure on the Richmond City Council, because in Richmond, let's start first and foremost by saying we started electing corporate-free candidates. That was one. The second thing we did, and I'm really proud of, is we addressed the root causes of crime. And I'm really proud of the legislation that I brought forward called Ban the Box, which helped reduce recidivism. When people can't get work, they're going to resort to crime. And by passing that, being the first one in the state of California to bring forward a Ban the Box policy really helped significantly to reduce recidivism by giving people a job. And I'm also proud to say that as a result of Richmond's leadership, the state of California now has a Ban the Box policy. By addressing the root causes of crime, people need to be able to have the resources that they need in order to do well. And so a lot of those resources can be simple things. We need to fund communities to have more parks. We fixed the parks that we have in Richmond. We opened up libraries. I was able to fund the Office of Neighborhood Safety that helped to reduce gun violence. We had ceasefire walks. And so that's how you address violence, through addressing the root causes of it.
Sandré Swanson, you're next. You're muted.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. When I was in the assembly, I led the assembly on legislation dealing with human trafficking. I believe human trafficking is funding the underground economy of crime. And that's why I worked so hard to make sure that we were rescuing our young women, some as young as 12 years old, who are part of this crime, who have been victimized by this particular crime. I developed a working relationship with law enforcement at the time. That's why my campaign is endorsed by all major law enforcement organizations in California. And I am very interested in making sure that we address this question of crime because it is unacceptable. In Oakland, people are afraid to come out at night. We're losing businesses. And I think we have to make sure that our police departments have the resources to be able to address this unacceptable crime, and they have to work in partnership with the community. We need some unarmed peacekeepers also, so that the response time of our law enforcement officers can be increased. I think in Oakland, for instance, we're understaffed. I just think Oakland doesn't have enough officers to be able to have bike patrols, et cetera. Thank you.
Jesse Arreguín, you're next.
The East Bay is facing a public safety crisis, and while we do need to focus on long-term solutions to reduce crime and create healthier, safer neighborhoods, let's face it, people are afraid to leave their homes. Businesses are closing. People are being victimized by crime. We have to address this crisis head-on with urgency and pragmatism. We also need to put forward solutions that adhere to our progressive values. So at my website, jesse.vote, we've released a public safety plan that's focusing on prevention, deterrence, and accountability. In terms of prevention, we need to hire more community police officers. We need to invest in violence prevention programs that address the root causes of crime, like ceasefire. I brought together mayors, supervisors, law enforcement officials to create a new regional collaborative, the East Bay Public Safety Corridor. We need more regional collaboration to address our public safety crisis. We need to invest in programs that provide real alternatives for our young people to make sure that they don't commit crime. We need to expand mental health services. We need to look at how we can use technology and improve our 911 response system to make sure that we can improve our response capability, and also to make sure that we can use technology to assist in crime prevention and criminal investigation. I want to provide tax incentives to help small businesses upgrade their security systems and address damage caused by break-ins. We absolutely need to fight for stronger gun laws and defend those laws by right-wing courts and the right wing trying to overturn California's strong gun control laws. And we also need to focus on accountability for law enforcement too. That's a critical part of it as well.
All right, your third question. Education in California is extremely underfunded. Do you support efforts to change the funding system from attendance-based to enrollment-based like many other states? Dan Kalb, you get to begin.
Thank you. In fact, that specific question, the answer is yes. In fact, I've authored a resolution at the Oakland City Council to support a bill that was out last year to do just that. It's more fair, it's a more equitable way of dealing with funding needs of all school districts. So yes, I support that specific reform. I'll also say that I put together a joint partnership with our school district to reduce chronic absenteeism, and now we have that program is still in place, not in a punitive way, but in a way that supports and supportive of the families. It's important that we keep our kids at grade level literacy, and that doesn't help at all if you're not in school. So let's keep kids in school in a supportive way, keep kids at grade level literacy, and then change the funding formula so in a more equitable fashion, as you suggest. And I fully support that bill. In fact, we already identified support for that bill. But we also have to reduce class size. In the elementary grades, we need to reduce class size. We need to invest more in reducing chronic absenteeism at the statewide throughout the state, not just in one community, and that will help keep kids in school and improve outcomes and help more kids who want to go to college to actually be able to make it more accessible and to get into college. So there's a lot we need to do. Help our community college system, public education. I strongly support reform of Prop 13 on the commercial side in order to get more funding for our schools. And we have a lot to do with our school system. And one of my top priorities is to be on the Senate Education Committee to help make that happen. Thank you.
Jovanka Beckles, you get to be next. You're muted.
All right, I'm a big supporter of our public school system, and I believe that we have to fund them and fund them and fund them. I believe that you mentioned the word absenteeism. Absenteeism as a mental health professional working with schools and teachers and principals and school support staff. I've really seen why kids often have such high absenteeism. A lot of it comes from health issues, whether it be mental or physical health issues. Many of it has to do with kids needing to come to mental health appointments or dental appointments or eye appointments. There's lots of different reasons for that. And so that's why I'm a strong believer in making sure that we have community schools where we have all of these different services right there in the schools. And I really believe that that would help to reduce the amounts of kids, children missing schools. And interestingly, a lot of the school closures now that we see happen to be, they tend to be Black schools. And we've seen that happening, in Oakland. And so that's why I support teachers and their unions. And I believe that we need to get our answers from them specifically.
Kathryn Lybarger, you're next.
The answer is absolutely yes. It's this thing that if you're funding based on attendance, not enrollment, then you find that if attendance is down, you lose the funding needed to actually staff up to bring children back into school. So it actually really works against addressing the actual problem itself. So very much in support of changing this funding system. More broadly, I've been knocking doors the last few weekends for these parcel tax measures that are going through the school districts. I was in Alameda and Berkeley the last couple of weeks, and it's just nuts that we have to knock doors to ask people to vote to continue the funding for these schools that really are, it's about funding California's future. So, I would really like to work at more stable long-term funding measures. I praise the teachers union foresight in 1988 for passing Prop 98. Because of that, we have some guaranteed level of school funding, but we need to do better. And I think that, on the issue of attendance and ensuring that everybody's going to school, I'd like to see specifically more funding for the community schools model, which gives wraparound services and community-based supports for schools and communities.
Jesse Arreguín, you're next.
Well, there's no doubt that education in California is significantly underfunded. We're the 5th largest economy in the world, but I believe we're 17th out of the 50 states in education spending. And we know that education is critical, not just to our state's economy, but opening the doors of opportunity for future generations. If it wasn't for the state's investment in our public education system, I wouldn't have been able to attend UC Berkeley. And I know our investment in our higher education system and our pre-K through 12 education system is absolutely critical. We need universal pre-K in California. We absolutely need to make sure that we are fully funding our schools and increasing our funding for our schools. So as your next state senator, I will prioritize education as our state is making difficult decisions and balancing its budget. So I absolutely support changing the funding system. Our community colleges are going to be significantly under-resourced. Peralta colleges, for example, may see significant deficit if we don't change this funding formula. It's also going to impact education spending throughout California. But we need to make sure that we're increasing student attendance and that we're providing wraparound services for kids and providing a pathway from college to career. That's what I've done in Berkeley. We created a partnership with our school district called Vision 2020, focusing on addressing educational outcomes for Black and Brown kids and increasing attendance, reading and math proficiency, and making sure we can address reading preparedness for college and career. I want to bring that equity-driven approach to the state Senate. to make sure as we're spending our dollars that we're focusing on centering racial equity and improving opportunity for all kids in California.
Sandré Swanson, you're next.
You know, I served in the assembly on the budget committee, the subcommittee on education and finance. And so a lot of people talk rhetoric about education being a priority, but during the recession, when I served, the first thing they tried to attack was to suspend the Proposition 98 guarantees, and I fought against that. I am for education being our #1 budget priority. I am for us being in the top 10 percentile of spending in the nation for education. I think our teachers are underfunded in salaries and benefits and resources. And some of them can't even afford to live near the school that they work. And so we need to make a real investment in education. I am committed to that. That has been my record. My greatest endorsement in this race is my record. And I encourage you to go to sandreswanson.net to look at my record in detail and see that I am not just promising what I will do. I have done those things when I was in the legislature and when we were faced with the hard budget decisions about where we would spend money. And so I think education has to be California's top priority, and the investment in education will bring great economic returns to our state. And I think that's what people have to realize. We have infrastructure problems in our schools. We have homeless children now that are going to our schools and they need additional services. We need nurses in our schools. There is a need for full service schools. Thank you very much.
All right, question number 4. What strategies should be used to address the loss of full service hospitals in the district? And the first speaker would be Sandré Swanson.
Well, I believe, and I have for a number of years believed that healthcare should be a right and not a privilege. And I think that as long as we attempt to sell healthcare like we do a loaf of bread, we're going to run into problems with hospitals being able to meet the bottom line. Obviously, in the short run, we should do what we can for single payer. We should do what we can to make sure the reimbursement rates are raised. When I was in the assembly and the issue about alta came up, sure, I walked the picket line with nurses to be able to advocate that in the Bay Area, we need that hospital. We need all of the hospitals that are in the Bay Area for emergency response. I also believe that the state should develop a fund where they can assist these hospitals, because we, at this point, with the new construction requirements of these hospitals and the financial burden that's put on them, that's an additional burden to the bottom line. And so as we move toward what I believe we should have, a national health system, we move toward putting people on assistance that allows everyone to have health care, then I think we have to do what we can to try to keep the hospitals, going and provide them whatever resources that we can. I believe healthcare is long been debated, but unless we make it so that people can have healthcare regardless of their ability to pay, we're going to have a problem.
All right, next speaker is Jesse Arreguín.
Well, as the mayor of Berkeley, this is an extremely important issue, not just to my constituents, but also to people throughout the Interstate 80 corridor. Alta Bates is going to close in the next 7 years unless we have a plan in place. And so as your next state senator, I will continue the fight to keep Alta Bates open and make sure that Berkeley and West Contra Costa County has a full service hospital. And I'm the only candidate who has led this fight with mayors and council members and supervisors and healthcare professionals, our firefighters throughout the region, to make sure that we have access to acute and emergency care. And that's why I'm the only candidate endorsed by the California Professional Firefighters, because I've been a strong advocate for keeping Alta Bates open and also making sure we can maintain and expand EMS service, not just in Senate District 7, but throughout California. Several things I would do. One, I would reintroduce the bill Senator Skinner introduced, Senate Bill 687, which gives the Attorney General the authority to decide whether emergency departments and hospitals can close. Right now, we have no say. I would also help author legislation to create a healthcare district to make sure that if we need to build a new full-service hospital, that we have the authority to do that, and also work to help secure funding through the State Hospital Finance Authority and other state agencies to make sure we can fund a hospital. I'm working with council members in Richmond, including Cesar Zepeda, who's endorsed my campaign, working with council members throughout the Interstate 80 corridor to find an immediate solution. And I promise you, we will not leave the East Bay as a healthcare desert. And I'm committed to this fight. I want to work to continue the fight in the state Senate.
Dan Kalb, you're next.
Thank you. My mother lived in San Pablo, just blocks away from Doctors Hospital for 9.5 years. And I was engaged as an individual in the fight to keep Doctors Hospital in place. And in the first 2 rounds of those fights, we won. We ultimately that lost, and that region is suffering for it in many regards. So yes, we absolutely need to make sure that we have enough hospital facilities, not just emergency services, but full service hospitals to the extent we can, not spread apart. And I'm working in Oakland to make sure that the Sutter, which wants to close all debates in Berkeley, won't be able to, or it'll be difficult for them to expand in Oakland, which creates an incentive for them to stay open in Berkeley. We're working on that right now, which I won't go into detail, but that's an effort that it's underway in Oakland. We do need to make sure that, and I would go toe to toe with the insurance industry. I will not take any money from insurance corporations or insurance PACs. I will go toe to toe to work on a single payer healthcare system, which we desperately need in California. We are the 5th largest economy in the world, and we can have an effective single-payer healthcare system in our state, and we have to fight to do that. And I will make sure we do that. But but it's going to take a while. So in the meantime, we have to make sure that we lower prescription drug costs, that Medi-Cal reimbursements rates are real and appropriate, and that we work to make sure that healthcare is accessible for all, including reproductive services. I'm proud to have a 100% rating of Planned Parenthood advocates, and I'm proud that I'm not only going to support reproductive rights, defend them, but also make sure that services are available to all those, no matter what the income level is.
Kathryn Lybarger, you're next.
Sure. So it's stunning. This is a problem that we're facing here in a really dense urban area, but we think of this as sort of like a rural problem, right? It's usually the question is, how do we keep rural hospitals open? But I think that some of the dynamics are the same. When we look at controlling costs, it doesn't help to control costs on the backs of the people that provide the care and the services, because then you have a staffing problem. I think that we have to keep focused on a system that is really about prioritizing patients over profits. Getting to a single payer system is a very big project, and there are steps we can certainly take on our way there. I think we've got to, shore up Medicare revenue and ensure that hospitals actually are reimbursed appropriately for the care that they give for people who rely on Medicaid. We need to secure funding from reliable sources. I know that there are a lot of good ideas out there. That's something I'm absolutely going to focus on. We need independent governance and oversight. The Attorney General being able to have review when an emergency room is slated to close, I think, is critical. And ultimately, we're controlling costs by controlling where profit goes.
Jovanka, Beckles, you're next.
Thank you for that question. We are the 4th largest economy in the world. We can certainly afford to provide quality health care for everyone who needing it. And so for me, I really believe strongly that we need to move away from this profit-driven system that we currently have. We need single payer now. I'm the only one who has been supporting this universal health care without compromise for years, as a matter of fact. And that's why I'm endorsed by the Healthcare for All California, because they've seen me in the trenches with them fighting for this, in the trenches with the community and healthcare providers fighting to keep Doctors Hospital open before it was closed down. And although we fought like crazy, we were not successful. And the reason for that is there was just not political will. So that's why we need to have people who are not taking any corporate money from any any system or entities, particularly the pharmaceutical company and the healthcare, health insurance industry, because then we can have people who are literally going to fight for us without fear and stand up and fight for us. And again, but this is not done with me alone, but it's also going to need to be done with the community.
All right, question number 5. What are your top 3 priorities for reducing the effects of climate change? And Jovanka, Beckles, you get to start this one.
All right. Well, my, top 3, I am endorsed by so many grassroots. I want to stress that grassroots environmental organizations like APEN, the Alliance Asian Pacific Environmental Network, like CBE, Communities for Better Environment, like CEJA, California Environmental Justice Alliance. So many of these grassroots organizations know my record of standing up to big polluters like Chevron. And I've done so for years. I've taken a beating for it. But because I owe nothing to the fossil fuel industry, I'm going to be beholden only to the community. So what we need to do is, and I stress this often, it's on my platform, we need to transition away from the fossil fuels. We need to enable people, rebuild our infrastructure to for it to be able to hold up to this new transition into a green economy. We need to train people. We need to train those that are currently in the fossil fuel industry, and all those workers who are afraid that transitioning away from fossil fuels will take their jobs away. But there will be so many jobs with that transition into a green economy. We need seamless electric transit. I'm really proud as an AC Transit Director that we are leading in that, and we need education for new jobs, new green jobs.
Dan Kalb, you're next.
Thank you. I'm proud of the fact that before I became a city council member, I worked for 9 years with the Union of Concerned Scientists as their policy director, actually being in Sacramento, writing climate legislation, engaging in this very topic that you just asked about for 9 years with UCS, 3 years with the Sierra Club. I've worked, much of my career has been working on environmental justice, clean energy, climate justice, climate issues for decades, and I will continue to do that as a leader on those issues. The number of things we have to do, but first of all, I want to thank California environmental voters, SunPAC, and the Climate Action California for their endorsement of my candidacy. And I will focus on making sure that we have a system in place, infrastructure for zero emission vehicles, electric vehicles, and other zero emission vehicles, increase our percentage for renewable energy, make sure the solar industry actually can help instead of being hindered by state agencies, make sure we have green building laws and requirements, and reducing vehicle miles traveled. If we can't reduce vehicle miles traveled, get people out of their cars, or have shorter commutes, we will fail in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I've worked on greenhouse gas emission reductions for decades, and I know how to couple those with improvements in air quality. We need both. We can't just focus just on greenhouse gas emissions. We also have to reduce criteria air pollutants, toxic air contaminants, help people in the communities who are having health challenges because of tremendous air pollution. I will continue to do that. We need climate resiliency hubs. We need to preserve our wetlands as part of climate adaptation. There's a range of things to do, and I will continue to be a leader on those things as I have been for decades in the past. Thank you.
Kathryn Lybarger, you're next.
So California is the 3rd largest emitter in the state. We buy 14 billion gallons of gas per year. And at those consumption rates, we are not going to get to our sustainability goals. So I think first we have to admit our deficiencies and take them seriously. I think that the way we do get there is by having everybody being able to be part of climate solutions. The 2035 mandate to stop the sale of new gas cars is a fantastic goal, but a lot of people are being left out of that. If we, like in this year's budget, are not continuing subsidies for low-wage people to be able to buy an electric car. What if we had gone a halfway measure, enabled people to buy a used hybrid? We'd probably be reducing our emissions right now as we speak. So let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We still have aggressive goals we have to reach, but let's think a lot more thoroughly about how we get everybody in. And then finally, I'm involved with California Labor for Climate Jobs, and we are a group of unions that form to ensure that as we shift to a sustainable economy, that workers are not left out and left behind, that climate jobs are good jobs. And when we do that, we actually involve all the workers, not as people who are obstacles and fighting because they're afraid of losing their jobs, but can actually really wholeheartedly fight for the green future that we all need.
Sandré Swanson, you're next.
Thank you very much. I had about an average of around 95% environmental voting record when I was in the assembly. Some years I had 100% environmental voting record. As chair of the Labor Committee, I held hearings in California ports on truck emissions and also the emissions that were coming from the ships themselves, because they were causing seniors and youth in these communities, many of them poor communities, problems with asthma and other kind of health respiratory problems. So I will continue to have a very good environmental voting record in the legislature, but I think it's important in the districts that I'm trying to represent, like Oakland, that we deal with other environmental concerns, like the waste and trash that's being developed by the unhoused. Those encampments are an environmental hazard, like the fact that people are using our cities as dumping grounds coming through. And when I was in the legislature, I developed laws against dumping. And so people want to make sure that when we talk about the environment, it's something that's real to them. It's something that's real in their neighborhood. And so that's what I like to concentrate on. I will handle being a supporter of our environmental long-range goals and our world leadership goals, but we have to address our needs in our community.
Okay. Jesse Arreguín, you're next.
Well, I want to continue the state's bold leadership in addressing our climate emergency, and we don't have time to wait. And we're experiencing the effects of our climate emergency with changing weather conditions, catastrophic wildfires, rising sea levels. And so we need to continue the work the state started to electrify, not just transportation, but also buildings. Proud that Berkeley became the first city in the country to pass a ban on natural gas infrastructure. We need to continue to advance policies for green building and electrification. And we also need to continue to electrify transportation. And that includes light and heavy duty vehicles, especially given the impacts at the Port of Oakland and on our West Oakland community. It's an environmental justice issue. We need to make sure we're preparing for the transition to electrification by increasing our investment in renewable energy and electric vehicle infrastructure. And that could provide good green jobs, union jobs for people in our state. We also need to adapt to the threat of climate change, sea level rise adaptation, wildfire mitigation. These are issues I've worked on as mayor of Berkeley and on the Bay Conservation Development Commission. And I want to provide resources to address them in Alameda County and in Contra Costa County. And we need to ensure that there is a real just transition. And this is an important issue for Senate District 7. We have 2 refineries in Rodeo and in Richmond. Thousands of employees will be out of a job when those refineries shut down. What does that transition look like? How can we invest in clean energy and green energy and also keep and help ensure that transition? I want to work on that in the state Senate.
Okay. Well, that ends the set questions. Now you get to start a lightning round. Now, about 8 questions, and hopefully we can get through them. You can answer yes or no, and add, if you wish, a sentence or 2. Think succinct, because you only have 15 seconds. And again, to remind you, if you wanted to talk more about them, you can add it to your closing statement. So the first question is, and I think you'll find this one interesting, are you in support of the Unified Healthcare Financing, SB 770, the legislation enacted in 2023 that commits California to lay the groundwork for a single payer healthcare program, also known as Improved Medicare for All? Jesse Arreguín, you get to begin.
Yes, it's critical to lay the foundation to create a universal single-payer healthcare system in California.
Okay, Jovanka Beckles. Oh, you're muted.
Absolutely, and that's why I'm endorsed by Medicare for All California. I will be a steadfast supporter and staunch supporter of Medicare for All because I've seen what happens when people don't have insurance.
Hey. Dan Kalb, you're next. When you can unmute.
I'm sorry, it wasn't working. There we go. Yes, I'm familiar with the bill. I appreciate that groups like Health Access and the National Union of Healthcare Workers were the leaders of that bill. I fully support it. I read it, and I hope we could continue to push that forward and eventually get to a single payer system. And I'm happy to be supported by Healthcare for All California.
Okay, Kathryn Lybarger, you're next.
I do support it. I think that as we fight for a single payer, we have to take every single reform that gets us on the way to that and helps expand access to everyone who needs it. This is a good step forward.
Okay, Sandré Swanson.
Yes, I'm for it. I'm for a single payer. I just don't believe they go far enough. I think we need a national health system. I think healthcare needs to be available to everyone in the United States. And so I just don't think it goes far enough. But in the meantime, I would support it, of course.
Okay. Next question. Do you support Proposition 1 on the March ballot? And Jovanka Beckles, you get to start.
Absolutely. I'm the only mental health professional on this panel. And so I absolutely support more money for mental health services and to make sure that our veterans are housed.
Okay. Dan Kalb.
Yes, I do support it, but I went from support to enthusiastic support when we finally made sure that residential drug treatment became part of Prop 1. And once that happened, absolutely fully support it. We have to get it passed.
Okay. Kathryn Lybarger.
Yes, I support. I look to behavioral health professionals who also support this as well as respect the concern that the league has shown around civil liberties. And so I think we have to keep an eye on that. But absolutely, I think with the data that this will generate, very supportive.
Sandré Swanson.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm absolutely for it. I also hope that it actually helps veterans and people that are homeless. And I do have an undergraduate degree in psychology.
Jesse Arreguín.
Yes, I support Prop 1. It provides critical funding, not just for beds for veterans, but mental health beds, and make sure that we have wraparound housing and expanding mental health care in the state of California.
Okay. Next question. Do you support reforming Prop 13? And Dan Kalb, you get to begin.
Yes, I've been a longtime supporter of reforming Prop 13 on the commercial side. We had Prop 15 just a few years ago. It lost by a narrow margin. We have to bring it back, and we have to need a broad coalition to make sure we pass it next time. Yes, yes on reforming Prop 13.
Kathryn Lybarger, you get.
Absolutely. And I think along the way, if we cannot, we need to keep making efforts as we've done to reform at wholesale, but I'd like to see us actually go at reforms within Prop 13 that we can actually achieve in the near term.
Okay. Sandré Swanson.
The answer is yes. We just have to make sure that the system going forward is fair to homeowners. That's very, very important.
Okay. Jesse Arreguín.
Yes, by closing corporate loopholes, we can create billions of dollars to fund our schools and other critical services. At a time where our state's facing critical budget challenges, this is essential. I want to lead the fight in the state Senate.
Okay. Jovanka Beckles.
Absolutely reform Prop 13. We need to tax the rich. They need to be paying their fair share of taxes. We can do so much when corporations pay their fair share of taxes. In Richmond, we ensured that Chevron paid their fair share of taxes and was able to give college scholarships to Richmond youth. There's a lot we can do when they pay their fair share of taxes.
Okay. All right. Next question. Do you support the proposed Bay Area Housing Finance Authority bond, BAFA? That's BAFA, which is the first regional housing finance authority in the state, which may place a $10 to $20 billion affordable housing measure on the November 2024 ballot, and to benefit the 9-county Bay Area. This money would be used to build affordable homes and to keep existing housing affordable in every county. Long question, but there it is, just to make it clear. Kathryn Lybarger, you get to do that first.
Absolutely. We need this kind of massive investment to get at the problem of real affordable housing. And I'm encouraged by the thinking of those who've drafted this, that we're looking not at regressive measures for funding, but at more progressive ones.
Sandré Swanson, you get next.
Yes, but I think we have to redefine affordable. I think 2 minimum wage earners ought to be able to afford a home. And so when we talk about affordable housing, let's just make sure that it's really affordable and not, not so that people can't afford to move in.
Okay. Jesse Arreguín.
Passionately, yes. I helped write Assembly Bill 1487, which created BAFA. As Vice President of ABAG, I'm leading the effort to put this bond on the ballot. We hope $20 billion. And Mr. Swanson, I want to assure you that extremely low-income housing and permanent supportive housing are a key part of the measure.
Jovanka Beckles, you're next.
Absolutely. But we have to define what affordable really means, because we can't really afford to give away money to developers and landlords and in addressing these fundamental issues. So we definitely need to have authority over this system, that it's not abused.
Okay. Dan Kalb.
Yes, I intend to support that measure wholeheartedly, but this is a stopgap solution. It's a significant solution. It'll help for a number of years, but it's not permanent, dedicated funding. That's why we need to bring back a modified form of redevelopment in addition to supporting this bond measure. So I do support the measure, and I'll be urging people to vote for it.
Okay. Next question. Would you support creating an Office of the Arts or a Secretary of the Arts at CDE, the California Department of Education, to ensure that Prop 28 arts education funds are distributed and used as intended by voters? Sandré Swanson, you get to begin.
Yes, I was actually on one of the arts committees in the Assembly. I'm a big fan, big supporter, and absolutely, I think I think we also have to bring arts and music back to schools to make sure that all our schools have that opportunity.
Jesse Arreguín.
Absolutely. I think our arts are really critical to educating our kids. I believe very strongly in investing in STEAM, the A being a critical portion of that. And in Berkeley, we've actually had to supplement our funding through the BSIP parcel tax. I urge you to vote for that. And we need to make sure we have funding statewide for arts education.
Jovanka Beckles.
Absolutely. Richmond leads in so many different ways, and that's another one of the ways that we led. We were able to establish an arts commission, and so I believe it's important that we fund the arts. It's critical to the development of children.
Dan Kalb.
Yes, absolutely support that. I remember over 30 years ago, I was part of a coalition statewide to stop the legislature from substantially cutting funds to the California Arts Council. The arts broadly defined are a big part of who we are. We can't make them, we can't consider them the stepchild of this budget. So yes, we have to do that.
Kathryn Lybarger.
Absolutely support it. I have a master's degree in sculpture, and the arts are deeply important to me. I understand that they're not an extra, they're really essential to who we are as people and important for kids growing up.
All right, next question. Don't you love how fast you're going through these? Do you agree with the recent state legislation that may override restrictions that local jurisdictions have put on where and how new housing can be built? I think the builder's remedy. And Jesse Arreguín, you get to start.
Yes. For those cities that are actually producing housing, we need to reward them with housing funds and infrastructure funds. But those that are standing in the way of building needed homes, 2.5 million homes, the state needs to step in and enforce housing laws. It's critical to make sure we can build needed homes throughout our state.
Jovanka Beckles, you get next.
While I support local legislation, I mean, local legislators, I really believe that local people know what's best for their communities. But I do understand the importance of you know, of this bill, because I think that it allows, it just does not allow for enough local control in their futures.
Okay, I think Dan Kalb, you asked me to repeat the question. Do you agree with recent state legislation that may override restrictions that local jurisdictions have put on where and how new housing can be built? I think the builder's remedy is what they've been calling it.
Thank you. I thought you were talking about Scott Wiener's bill to extend SB 35, but now it sounds like you're talking about the builder's remedy, which is not the same thing. I supported Scott's bill to make that, as long as we kept protected wetlands, I supported that bill. The builder's remedy, it's important, but I think it might be going too far. So I would support it, but I didn't make sure that it's not going to get out of hand.
Okay. Kathryn Lybarger.
I do support it. You know, it's not the first stop. It's something that comes in when there's been a lot of resistance to building new housing. I'm open to having to revisit it if it turns out to be going too far in the other direction towards building housing.
Okay. Sandré Swanson.
Yeah, I believe in democracy, and so local control to me is very important. I think that the local elected officials have to have a very serious voice, and I would have to look at the bill very closely and see if it allows that.
Okay. All right, next question. Would you support 16 and 17-year-olds voting? And if so, which races should they be able to vote for and why? Yes, no, and why? And Jovanka Beckles, you get to start.
Yay, I get to start. I'm loving these questions. Again, these are the kinds of things that we brought forward in Richmond. And I brought forward as a city council member, the ability for 16-year-olds to vote. And I think that it's important because they are, it's their future and they deserve an opportunity to have a say in their future.
Okay. Next would be Dan Kalb.
Yes, in fact, I supported the ballot measure, the charter measure in Oakland that would allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote for school board members in Oakland. I think we eventually can move that to city council and eventually move that to the state level as well. I also wrote the measure to allow immigrant parents to vote for school board members.
Kathryn Lybarger.
Totally support this. Studies show that actually the younger that people start voting, especially in high school age, the greater chance it is that they're going to become voters for the rest of their lives. So this is good for all democracy over time.
Sandré Swanson.
Absolutely. I chaired the Select Committee on Men and Boys of Color in the Assembly. We held hearings up and down the states with thousands of young people there. We're ready to participate in this process, and we should definitely make this happen.
Okay. Jesse Arreguín.
I absolutely support this. I voted to put on the measure on the ballot in Berkeley in 2016 to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote in school board elections, working to implement now that this election. We can expand that to city council and potentially state elections. I think it's absolutely critical that kids who are directly being impacted by the education policies have a voice in electing those people who shape them.
Oh, last question in this round. What is your position on ACA 4, which would allow Californian voters to decide whether the nearly 100,000 disenfranchised, incarcerated people completing their sentences in California prisons have the right to vote? And Jovanka Beckles, you get to begin.
Absolutely. Again, just these are many of the things that I'm already leading on. 90% of people who are incarcerated are going to be returning to their communities. And many of them, of course, want to succeed. So the answer is yes, I absolutely 100%.
Hey, Dan Kalb.
Yes, I do support that. I visited San Quentin Prison as an example several years ago, talked to many inmates going through rehabilitation programs. And this is a smart thing to do. This will help with rehabilitation, create encouragement, and get people used to voting because they're going to come out eventually as they have a right to do. Let's support that and encourage democratic voting. Thank you.
Kathryn Lybarger.
Totally support it. It encourages actually investment back into the community of people who are reentering. So it's absolutely excited about it.
Sandré Swanson.
Yes, we absolutely need this, but we need reentry programs that have substance to them. We have to lower our recidivism rate. That's how we help to address crime, by making sure that people that come back into our community have hope and have resources to be able to survive.
Jesse Arreguín.
Yes, I support this. In fact, the Berkeley City Council just passed a resolution in support of the law. But I also support Assemblymember Bryan's efforts to end forced servitude in the prison system. We need to also work to invest in rehabilitation so people can successfully reenter.
Okay. Well, now we have reached the part where each one of you can make your 2-minute closing statements. And I have brought you back to alphabetical order. So we will begin with Jesse Arreguín.
Well, thank you very much. As your next state senator, I'll address public safety comprehensively and push to hire more officers who live in the communities that they serve. I'll work to build housing for all, address homelessness through mental health and housing, invest in public education, champion universal health care, defend reproductive rights, and combat climate change. The East Bay Times, in their endorsement this weekend, said about me, of those, the person who can best carry on the tradition of impactful lawmaking is Berkeley Mayor Jesse Arreguín. They said that I'm smart, articulate, well-informed, and willing to pragmatically bridge the treacherous divides of progressive politics. Of the 6 candidates, Arreguín has the progressive politics to match the district and the strongest record for navigating political differences. Voters should select him on March 5th, and I ask that you select me on March 5th. And I'm honored to be endorsed not just by the East Bay Times, but Superintendent of Public Instruction Tony Thurman, Assemblymember Buffy Wicks, the California Professional Firefighters, Dolores Huerta, the Northern California Carpenters, State Building Trades, over 100 current and former East Bay elected officials, a growing coalition of local leaders, business, labor are supporting me because of my proven track record of leadership on some of the most critical issues facing the East Bay: building housing, addressing homelessness comprehensively, addressing our public safety crisis. And my track record in Berkeley is not just leading with our progressive values, but actually demonstrating action that progressive leadership can bring material benefit to people in our communities. And so my approach to leadership in the state Senate is going to be to bring my nearly 20 years of elected experience to make a difference for people in the East Bay. I'd be honored to have your support.
Jovanka Beckles. You're muted.
Okay, there we go. Thank you. Thank you for your help. You've heard everyone talk tonight, and what I want to emphasize is that my opponents, have talked about this is what I'm going to do, and trust me in that. And most of the answers that I was able to give, I talked about I've already done this. These are things I'm already doing. So you can trust that I'm going to continue to do it. I was a wraparound facilitator for 23 years and a Teamster. I saw firsthand why communities are struggling. And I have concrete solutions and a movement running along with me, a movement to put people over profit. I am the only corporate-free candidate in this race. That means I'll be working for the community and not corporations. I'm the most viable here. I've been in local office for 18 years. I have the strongest name recognition. Folks trust me. I saved jobs for workers. I supported renters, banned the box, raised the minimum wage to the highest in California, held corporate polluters accountable, kept children out of chains in juvenile hall. I did all this while working full-time as a mental health professional. We need more Black healthcare professionals in positions of power. I ask that you join this winning movement to people over profit. That's why I'm endorsed by so many grassroots organizations representing renters, the environment, and housing, such as the Young Democrats of Contra Costa County, Oakland East Bay Democratic Club, Teamsters, ILW Northern California District, Our Revolution, the Amalgamated Transit Workers, East Bay DSA, RPA, KDM Renters Council, the Berkeley Tenants Union, ACE, and school board members, progressive corporate free elected officials. I ask for your endorsement because it's time. We deserve a seat at the table. Black and brown people deserve it. And I ask for your support in making sure that this happens.
And Kalb, you're next.
Thank you. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for all the great work you do.
Oh, you went mute. You went mute.
Okay, let's start over. Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for all the work you do day in and day out, not just during election time. I'm not merely a good vote. People who've seen my work, seen my record, they know that I am and have been and will be a strong leader when it comes to affordable housing, protections for renters, public safety, gun violence prevention, police accountability, climate change, environmental justice, sustainability, which is my professional longstanding background, support for public libraries, walkable neighborhoods, and on and on and on. I'm proud to be an affordable housing champion, and I'm proud of the decades of work that I've engaged in when it comes to climate change, environmental justice, and other environmental issues. And I know that if you look at the legislature today, you could count the number of legislators who have a deep, long-standing expertise or professional background on climate, environmental justice, environmental health, water issues. You could count those people on one hand and have fingers left over. And Nancy Skinner is one of those people, and we're losing her to term limits. I'm the one who could follow her footsteps when it comes to being a leader, a passionate expert leader on environmental issues, and as well as work on the broad range of issues that we must deal with throughout the East Bay and throughout the entire state of California. I'm proud to be endorsed by 18 current and former state legislators, including 2 members who were in Congress. I'm proud to be endorsed by over 65 current and former East Bay local elected officials. I'm proud to be endorsed by a number of organizations, Climate Action California, California Environmental Voters, I'm forgetting the other ones, Cal Berkeley Democrats, the Albany Democratic Club, Healthcare for All California, East Bay Animal PAC, Sun PAC, and on and on. I'm proud of the work I've done. I will work very hard, and people know that I get involved in details because details matter. I'm proud to have your support of all those listening to this or reading this or looking at this, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Check out my website, dankalb.net. Plenty of information there about the issues I want to work on and that I have worked on. Thank you.
Kathryn Lybarger, you're next.
So California boasts the 5th largest economy in the world. And the cost of living here is 42% higher than the national average. So is the poverty rate. This is the result of government policies set by Democrats, good people who have lots of experience in government and policy. And the impacts of their decisions are felt by working people in their daily lives. The question that guides me, that I've landed on for our senators and assembly members that I meet with and talk to after a decade of working to get bills passed through the legislature is not just what, but who are you putting all your experience that you have in the service of? I haven't held elected office before. That puts me, I think, in the good company of 2 East Bay women who currently competently represent us in the state legislature. I'm the only candidate in this race who has not only gone to a strike line, but led one of the largest strikes in California. And I say that proudly. I know what it's like to have a man trust me that he wouldn't lose health care for his sick son if he goes out on strike. It's why I got a law passed the following year to make it illegal for a public employer to threaten the loss of health care to a striking worker. I know what it's like to get a call from a janitor asking how to cash out his pension so he can cover the first and last month's rent. And that's not why I led a strike to preserve people's pensions. but it is why I'm fighting so hard now to have the state's third largest employer invest in affordable housing and not just more market rate housing. I'm running to support the people who help people, nurses, janitors, teachers, students, our neighbors, who it's been my honor to work for and alongside for quality, affordable housing, healthcare, education, and a livable planet. I want to thank you for your time tonight. Please give me a call if you want to talk more. You can find the number on the website. I look forward to your support. Thank you.
Sandré Swanson, you're.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm the only candidate running in this race who actually served in the legislature. And so I'm encouraging you to go to my website, look at all the laws that I've written, see the things on environment, see the things on public safety that I actually have done. I am running in this race to address our crime. Our crime is out of control. People are afraid in the largest city in this district to park their cars on the street, to go to restaurants in the evening. Businesses are closing. We are losing this battle against crime. And I am running. I understand that a member of the legislature can't do everything. But what I am promising you is that I will address this question of crime. We've got to make sure that our public safety organizations are well funded, that they have the resources to be able to combat this crime, which is organized. We are facing organized crime. One day in Oakland, 80 cars were stolen, 80 cars. Now that's just not two guys from the neighborhood that's doing that. Is organized crime. And if we need to be upset about it, I was watching television, I saw a woman being drugged down the street because she wouldn't let go of her purse. This is unacceptable. And so I want to get into office to do something about it, to show some leadership, to do something about that question. Yes, I have endorsements of Fiona Ma, endorsements of Tony Thurman, endorsement of Jeanne Quan, but my endorsement is my record of service. And what I'm telling you is that as someone who's been in the legislature, that know what I can do to show leadership in our community. I was born in the city of Oakland. We're losing our city, and it's unacceptable to me. It's unacceptable for people to feel that they're prisoners in their own community, in their own home. This cannot continue. And so someone needs to be upset about it, and I'm upset about it. And I think that we need to do all we can to make our people feel safe. Thank you.
All right. Now, we know that some of you, the audience, and those who submitted questions may not have had your particular question addressed. The screeners combine similar questions of general interest to the audience in the limited time we had. But we hope that you will contact, as they have also mentioned, that you will contact the candidates directly for additional information. Your local leagues also participate in vote411.org, an online collection of candidates' information. We encourage you to go there to view candidates' information as well. Regarding voting, if you have moved or changed your name or wish to change your party affiliation since you last registered, you need to re-register. Online registration is available at the Secretary of State's website, sos.ca.gov. It's secure and easy. The deadline to register to vote online is February 20th. Voters may also register to vote on Election Day and thereby vote provisionally. Ballots will begin to be mailed out on February 5th. That's today. You can vote in person by mail or place your place your ballot in an official Alameda County ballot drop box. Whatever you choose, please remember to cast your ballot on or before Election Day, March 5th, 2024. Thank you to the candidates for participating this evening. Thank you, the audience, for taking time to become an educated voter. We also had many volunteers participating and want to thank them for help. We welcome you to join the League of Women Voters in doing the hands-on work to empower voters and defend democracy. Please vote on March 5th, 2024. Thank you. did it just on time. Thank you. Thank you.